Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode in Adventures of Comprehension. My name is Ciera Harris and I'm the author behind Ciera Harris Teaching. So if you are here and watching, make sure to drop me a comment below and say hello. I love to know who I'm talking with. Let me know what grade you teach and where you are from. And then you can obviously see tonight, our topic is right here. Tonight we're going to be talking about our core reading pillars. And I'm going to be sharing with you all of mine. So let's jump in and talk about core reading pillar number 1. And this is, I say it's core reading pillar, but really it should be core pillar, period. Regardless of if you teach reading, math, or any other subject. And of course, that is relationships, right? Relationships have to be the foundation of every successful classroom. So when we're talking about relationships, we're talking about getting to know your students specifically. I have a great blog post that I would love to share with you if you would like the link, but it talks all about how to really get to know your readers. So I always kind of think of it in two different ways. I can get to know my students, but then I can also get to know them as readers. So when we think about core reading pillars, what that means is getting to know your students as readers. Who are they as readers? What kind of genres do they like? What kind of connections can they make based off their life experiences and their prior knowledge or schema? What kind of themes do they gravitate towards? What kind of an active reader are they? Where are their areas of strength and areas of weakness? So really understanding who they are. So having relationships with your readers also opens your students up to being more vulnerable. Reading is a very vulnerable act. If you think about it, like there's so many places that we can make mistakes. Our thinking, we don't know whether or not our thinking is on the right track. If we're far off in the left field or if we're somewhere, where we need to be. Readers are nervous. Readers can be anxious. And I know you've experienced that in your students. So because we know that reading is such a vulnerable act, think about this. It's not black and white, right? Reading takes courage, it takes openness, it takes exploration, and reading takes risk. And so if your students feel safe and they trust you and you've built this relationship with them and they feel more comfortable with you, they're going to feel more comfortable taking risks when reading. Hey everyone, so sorry to interrupt, but I want to make sure that you are loving the content coming from Ciera Harris Teaching on YouTube. So make sure if you are loving this to subscribe and also like and comment below. I would love to hear from you. All right, so core reading pillar number 2 is independent reading time. And this one is so important. Independent reading time is a staple in any successful reading classroom. It's a complete non-negotiable. Research shows us that independent reading time is the #1 factor in student success. You want them to be good readers? Then let them read. Uninterrupted, unstructured, let them read, okay? Students must have this time to read and practice reading without the added pressure of questions to answer or graphic organizers to fill in or even a reading log. I'm anti-reading log. There's so many other things that your kids can be doing than filling out a reading log, right? We just need to let our students read. So not only do the benefits for students outshine any other type of research that's out there, but there are so many benefits to the teacher as well. During independent reading time, we can be getting to know our students even more each day. Listening to them read, okay? No agenda. Just sit with your students and listen to them read. Find out what books they are gravitating toward. What books are your students loving nowadays? Are they excited? Period. Are they excited to read the book that they have? If they're not, then it's our job to make sure and help them find books that they are excited about. Having a true book talk with your students, one-on-one, can be so powerful, but it's hard to find that time. So ensuring that your independent reading time is a priority every single day is going to give you time to just be with your students. All right. We are ready for number 3. Number 3 is a controversial one, and I know that there are many people, researchers, teachers, admin out there who say that the gradual release model is dead, and I am here to tell you it is not. It is not dead, and it is my core reading pillar number 3. Absolutely. The gradual release model, also known as the I do, we do, you do. I know that there are people who say that this is the old way of teaching, but it is not true for reading, and here's why. Reading is such a closed off process, okay? When we read, we typically read alone and we're reading in our heads. The gradual release model ensures that our students get that glimpse of what is happening in the mind of the teacher while we read. This is done during the I do portion. This is the model. I have a blog post that is all about modeling tips and tricks. And no, I don't mean modeling as in, that kind of modeling. I mean the I do. This is a time where it is your responsibility to show your students what happens from beginning until end of whatever skill or strategy you're teaching them. This specific process goes from taking something that is typically a closed off process to being a very open process for students to hear. And they need to hear it and see it and feel it from beginning until end. And it typically takes 3 minutes to do. It's not I'm not lecturing to the class. I'm not taking too much time. Even for my kindergartners, they can sit and listen to me for 3 minutes. And then I can turn to them and say, what did you just see me do? After the I do, then the students get to practice this. So it's kind of a working backwards process. You want to think about the end of the lesson. What do you want your students to be able to do? I want my students to be able to fill out this graphic organizer about main idea in detail. Great. Then that's what you model. Everything needs to completely align. So if this is the end result in this lesson that you want, then that is what you should model. So I will take 3 minutes to model with my own text. We will do some together in that collaborative we do, and then the independent time is for students to try it out on their own. Because of that, that is where students are going to find success. So we are ready for core reading pillar number 4, and this one's an exciting one. Number 4 is all about engagement. Engagement to me is that 100% of my students have had access to touch the content of the lesson in a given time frame. So what I mean by touch is they have had to talk, they have had to write or draw or read in some way, and for someone else to have responded to that. It is important, right, that for teachers that we have engagement strategies up our sleeve at any given time, right? We've always been there, or we've all been there, where we're in a lesson and it's just crickets. It's just not going well. So in that moment, I want to have strategies that I can use to get my students up out of their seat and talking with one another to get them engaged and involved in the content. These strategies need to be at your fingertips. They are things that you need to have and do to ensure that all of your students are collectively engaged and they are contributing to the lesson. And it's important for success for all of your students in your classroom. So we're ready for number 5, our very last core reading pillar. And the final one is data. Here's the question that I love to ask teachers. If you do a lesson and you don't take data from that lesson, why did you even teach it? Honestly, if you can't say how your students grew from that lesson, how their thinking changed, and where they are now in the process of that skill or that strategy that you focused on, you don't know, then it's like you never taught it. It's pointless almost, right? It is almost pointless. Now, yes, you're going to get some feedback and some information based on, the questions maybe that you asked in the classroom and some of the way that they answered some of the questions, but you're not going to know, you're not going to remember every little student and how they did and how and where they are in that process. No, no, no. You need data to show you that. So here is what I mean by that. So the data that you are collecting is the proof, right? Is the proof that the lesson was taught. And it's the information that you need to know in order to know how your lesson went and where you need to go next. What do you need to do now? Yes, you can plan out a whole week of lessons. That's fine. And on Monday, you teach lesson number 1 of your week in reading, and then you need to take data from that lesson. A quick exit ticket is perfectly fine for that. And then you look at that exit ticket and you think, okay, now I know how my lesson went. I know how well my students understood the content. And I know how to adapt and change my lesson for tomorrow that I have planned. And that adapt and that change can be as simple as how you start your lesson. Or maybe you take a different approach to a certain part of the lesson. It doesn't mean you are replanning everything. Absolutely not. Nobody has time for that. But you now have data to know how to tweak and approach the lesson that you do have planned currently in your plan book. So there are 2 ways data needs to be used in every lesson. 1, data needs to be used prior. Using data before the lesson ensures that the specific lesson entities such as grouping, questioning, scaffolding, all of those pieces, right, are provided when and where they are needed. So if I look at my data prior to planning, then I know exactly how to approach that lesson before I teach it, right? And then number 2, data needs to be gathered at the end of every lesson. So this can be done as a simple form as an exit ticket. A post-it note works, right? It's all about being intentional about what you're doing. But yes, this can be done as a simple form as an exit ticket with one simple question. You need some form of physical proof, some evidence that your students learned during the lesson. So how are they doing with the objective that you just taught? If you don't know, beyond that qualitative observational data that you took with your eyes and ears, if you don't know and you just hope to remember, then that lesson isn't going to help you move forward faster. It's the data that will help you move the needle faster. So use different types of data, use data at different times and for a variety of purposes, and that helps ensure that your students are always at the heartbeat of your classroom. So those are it. Those are my 5 core reading pillars. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? These are mine, and that does not mean that you have to adapt them. That's not what I'm here to say, but these are what made my classroom successful. Anyways, thank you so much, and I will chat with you all soon. Bye.